So many of you know that I am on a journey to make my passion into a small business, with the ultimate goal of giving up work, because quite frankly I've had enough of 12-hour shifts. And sleeping in the day's wrong, isn't it? Let's be honest. Anyway, I wanted to share with all of you my journey so far, in the hope that you might find some solace that we're not all at the end of our journey. We all see people who have made it all the time on YouTube and Instagram, and just in general, it's just everywhere. And we compare ourselves. And so I'd like to discuss my journey so far, in a hope that inspires you to know that you are not the only one. So my journey began when my son was very small. I elected to give up work so that I could raise him. I didn't want to put him in nursery, and his dad worked shifts. But I wanted my own money. So I decided that I would love to have a go at selling my artwork. And I joined eBay, and there was a group on there dedicated to ACEOs. And as I started to learn about these, I decided that I would have a little butcher's and give it a whirl. So I'm a completely self-taught artist. I had absolutely diddly squat idea in regards to art materials, papers, absolutely nothing. But I knew that I love drawing and I love painting and all art and craft things in general. I mean, I could probably have about 70 hobbies if you let me, but I just don't have the space. So a trip to Hobbycraft was in order. I think I purchased some acrylics, and everybody, I have no idea how to pronounce this. You can tell that I'm self-taught because I think it's gouache or gouache. I don't know. And I've never used it since. I probably should. Probably shouldn't buy any more art materials. No, that's a bad idea. And also some pastels that had an outer casing, like coloured pencils. And so, armed with my new materials, I'm pretty sure I bought some I think I bought some canvas, actually. Canvas sheet. Like in a pad, randomly. So, armed with these things, I set to work. And so, I created my very first ACEO. And I think if I recall, you could post your artwork into the group as well. I'm not sure it wasn't just another artist that bought it, but it did sell. Now, unfortunately, due to changes of laptops and computers and whatever else, I don't have the original one I did. I think I still remember it was a Christmas tree with a black background and as though it was sitting on the inside of a window. I'm pretty sure it was quite pants. Based on this success, or what I perceived as success, I then continued to create ACOs, and I moved on to one-of-a-kind postcard art. It was a steep learning curve. I do recall a customer telling me that biro had no place on artwork. She was right, I have learned. But because I wasn't the main breadwinner, my money wasn't needed for the house, for the upkeep or anything on those lines, I became a little bit addicted to the fact that people were buying my artwork. I became effectively a robot, and I mass produced my art. Every waking hour I was creating artwork, but I was putting it on for nothing, absolutely, considering the material cost, considering the postage cost and the eBay fees, and then my time. I mean, minimum wage I was not earning. So I know we've all been there. Every small business owner must have been there at some point. You underprice your artwork or your craft or whatever it is because it's selling, and you think that that's success. Armed with my new naivety, I decided I should have a solo exhibition. So there was a lady somewhere close by. I can't even recall where it was, I'll be honest. It was a barn on her property. She exhibited her own artwork, and then she had local crafters, so knitted stuff, glassware, those kind of things. And I think she might have seen me coming. She was more than happy to take my pennies. And needless to say, I didn't make any sales, randomly enough. This was at a time when I was still learning art, and it was a long progression. The canvases weren't primed. I think they were from somewhere like The Works. The paint was probably, going to fall off the canvas 2 seconds after someone got it home. I didn't understand what archival was. I didn't understand what Lightfast was. I didn't understand anything at all. So that was probably number 2 learning curve in the whole journey. So what I did take away from that huge flop was that I did need to hold my horses. I needed to slow down, and I needed to learn to walk before I could run. At some point I was going to face plant again. So I went away and I bought some books and I Googled, decided on a medium. It's not ultimately the medium that I stayed with, and I'm at a point in my life now where I'm happy to try out other things. And maybe in the future we'll be using many mediums. But I needed to pick a medium and I needed to pick a subject, and I needed to really focus and narrow down and produce the best artwork that I could produce that was archival, that was on paper, that wasn't like tissue paper, and all of these things that I learned along the way. It was a steep learning curve. So I do feel sorry for the people that ended up with my ACOs when I was fresh-faced and learning my trade, and the ones after while I was still learning, because I'm pretty sure they were pants. What I should have done is stopped creating, but I didn't. I continued to sell ACOs. However, they did get better. The quality of the material got better, and I was doing really quite well. I did get another exhibition through the ACO group in Nottingham. I didn't sell anything, but I was a lot prouder of the work that I produced that time. And then many, many years later, I joined a local gallery. Because I was only working part-time at this point, I was able to staff it. That's how it worked. You basically helped staff and then you paid less commission. It was run by the artists basically and the designers. And I did really well there. I loved it. And then, just as life does, it threw a curveball. So that curveball was my husband and I splitting up. I could no longer get by on working part-time and selling my artwork at the gallery. So I got a 9 to 5. At the weekends, I was staffing the gallery, and I was also running an art club for kids at the gallery. The purse strings were quite tight at this point. So when the opportunity to take a shift job arose, my goodness, did I take it. For the first time, I could take my son on holiday. We even had a TV in the front room, and everything was looking peachy. Whilst it was amazing to take my son on holiday, and it was fabulous to have a telly, the purse strings were no longer tight, but I was tired, and therefore my art ended up on the back burner for about 2 years, I reckon. And I'm sure many of you have faced this, where life throws a curveball, and because it's not a job at this point, you kind of just give up. And that was the next learning curve. So at this point, not only had I given up on my art, but a letter came through the door from the taxman. Because I hadn't been to see the accountant, my computer was still in a box, all of my art material was still in a box, and I hadn't filed any taxes. He then started to charge me interest, which was probably the most scary ordeal that I've ever been through. I rang and explained that it should be extenuating circumstances because of everything that had happened, and I just kept getting more and more letters. So I managed to make one last phone call, and thank goodness I did, because I got an amazing lady who understood completely. She told me what to do, and it all got cleared. And for that reason, I will always have an accountant. Slowly but surely, I got used to my life now, and things started to get better. I made the spare bedroom into a studio, and it was lush. It was amazing to have a space for my art. I started creating, set my social media back up. My ACOs were selling really well. Fantastic. And I met my husband. He was very supportive. Life dropped another bombshell. My son needed to move back home, and we ended up with custody of his 3 children. Due to circumstances, I then needed to find a house that was big enough that I could afford, and the only thing I could find was an ex-HMO. My goodness, does it need some work? We've been there 4 years. we've done quite a lot. I say we, mostly me. But once again, guess what went on the back burner? And I knew I shouldn't have given up, but I pretty much did. I concentrated solely on the house. Despite not having any space at all to do my art, literally I had the bottom of a hutch that I found in the cellar that I turned into a desk, which was only big enough to house my new printer that can't do prints because the quality's not good enough. But I can still scan, so, you know. And my computer, I decided that the best idea would be to buy some drafting film. I think I was inspired by somebody on YouTube. I don't even know. So I bought the drafting film, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't sleep. So I thought, I know what every sane person does at 2 o'clock in the morning. I should go and get the drafting film. I should grab my box of coloured pencils, because they were literally in a box at this point. I shall go down to the dining room table and I shall set up and I shall carry out whatever piece of artwork that I wish to do. And anyway, for whatever reason, I decided to do a picture of our dog Sky. I've done a few pet portraits in the past. I strived away from them because I didn't think I was good enough, and I had a couple of awkward customers and just was like, no, can't do that. Anyway, managed to complete the portrait of Sky, and I was pretty impressed considering that I'd never used the drafting film before. And then over the next week, I did Ivy, our other dog, and then randomly a cat that I used to own called Kit. So armed with just 3 portraits on a material that I had never used before, drafting film, and I'm still not sure how you do a pet portrait on that, and then do you mount it and what do you put behind it? That's something I need to look at in the future. Anyway, back to the story. So armed with 3 portraits, I decided for once in my life I was going to put my big girl pants on and be brave. So I took the plunge. I decided I wasn't going to try and create a website from scratch. So I did probably most website designers would be shocked and horrified. But anyway, I went with Wix. And then I went about sharing the 3 portraits that I had done and also my website on all of the social media, including my own Facebook page. To be fair, what I expected was tumbleweeds, absolutely nothing. But instead, to my surprise, a steady stream of friends came forward. Now, I didn't charge them a huge amount because I needed to draw. I didn't want to draw, I needed to draw. And I had a website that needed portraits on it, and also my social media needed images. And then the absolute craziest thing ever happened. It blew my mind. 2 customers whom I didn't know, actual real live clients, came forward and requested a portrait each. Turns out one of them even lived where I live. So I had to learn to take progress pictures, which is really hard with ADHD, but I can do it, which is amazing. And one of the portraits was from an old photograph. It was so difficult to even make out any kind of detail, and it had a head collar. Is it a head collar for horses? I'm guessing it's a head collar for horses. I don't know. What is it? The head thing? Whatever. Had one of those, the most ornate thing you've ever seen in your entire life. But could you make out any of the detail? No. Anyway, I managed it and she was so happy. I also learned a lot about horses along the way. But now it's a head collar, isn't it? Yes, that's what it is. It's a head collar. I could sit here and be the great pretender. I could give you the impression that I have commissions left, right and centre. I even have a waiting list, people knocking on my door. That's simply not true. My artwork's not flying off the shelves. There is tumbleweeds. I don't know how to work TikTok Shop, but I do know that I am enjoying the process of creating my artwork and sharing it with others. This is what I'm striving for, and I don't care that I don't have a proper desk and that I just have a dressing table
And I don't care that I'm still in full-time employment, because it doesn't make me any less of an artist. And I'm absolutely loving interacting with people who are in the same position as me, or a little further up the ladder or a little further down, and all the creative people. It's just absolutely amazing. So from one small business owner to another, we will get there. Enjoy the journey. Until next time, toodle pip and goodbye.